As Jinshi visits the palace's concubines, he notes Lulan's huge number of ladies-in-waiting, which seems unfair to the others. Later, he looks for Maomao at the Jade Pavilion, where Gyukuyo points him to the clinic where Maomao works with Gwen to create scented oils and ethyl alcohol for disinfecting, using a still she found. She keeps this process away from the Jade Pavilion to prevent the fumes from triggering a miscarriage, as Gyokuyu is pregnant. Later, a package of books from Yoritababa arrives, intended to teach ladies-in-waiting how to please the emperor in case it happens. Jinshi approves her little side hustle, but Gaoshin had to take the books for censoring of its very explicit parts. A few days later, a novel becomes popular as it circulates among the servants. Noting the seal on one of the books, she remembers Jinshi asking where the books were purchased, and him asking her once how to improve literacy in the rear palace. Thinking that this is part of the emperor's effort to promote literacy, Maomao then urges Ailan, one of Gyokuyu's ladies who can write, to make copies of the novel so that the servants can read it too. Indeed, Xiaolin expresses interest in learning to read and write, not just to enjoy the novel, but for her future as well. Later, during a walk with Hongyang and Maomao watching over her, Princess Xiaoling hears a kitten meowing in an alley. Maomao tries to catch it, but fails, only to be caught by a mysterious servant girl. Maomao takes care of the kitten, and the emperor allows the princess to keep it as a pet. Though the kitten is dubbed the admonisher of thieves for keeping the clinic rodent-free, Maomao is astonished as to why the kitten was named Maomao. Later, Maomao hears rumors about a caravan arriving in town. The palace prepares for the arrival of a diplomatic delegation, part of a trading caravan, while Gyokuyu gains 2 new ladies-in-waiting to assist during her pregnancy and counterbalance Lulan's, as well as the others' excessive staff. Checking Gyokuyu's haul of new dresses, Maomao notices restrictive dress designs that could reveal Gyokuyu's pregnancy and alerts her. Meanwhile, Maomao reflects on the palace's peculiar lack of amenities, despite its excellent sanitation system. On the caravan's last day, when discounts abound, Maomao shops with Xiaolan and encounters Shisui, the servant girl who caught her cat. Over tea at Gwen's clinic, Shisui mentions a strange smell from the north, possibly a clogged waterway, and shares her fascination with insects, intriguing Maomao. Days after the caravan departed, scented oils and perfumes became popular among the court ladies, prompting an alarmed Maomao to investigate the Crystal Pavilion, where trends spread quickly. Her panic sniffing of clothes leads Shin, Lihua's head lady-in-waiting, to file a complaint. Explaining to Jinshi and Gyokuyu, Maomao mentions that scents such as that of rose, benzoin, frankincense, parasol tree, and cinnamon, scents she smelled on the court ladies, along with that of certain spices and teas, could endanger pregnancies. In this case, Gyokuyu's and, as implied, Lihua's, linking them to past poisoning incidents involving lead-based beauty powder. Jinshi warns the concubines, while Gyokuyu orders her staff to inspect the scents and spices they have. It is also appropriate as, after all, Suirei, the court lady who faked her death, remains at large. The tensions heighten as news of a concubine named Jin dying from suspected poisoning raises suspicions of a bigger, far-reaching conspiracy. Meanwhile, Maomao finds out from the quack doctor about another court lady named Tao, who has gone missing for a year, just before she was about to marry a high-ranking official who was in love with her. Although she finds it weird, still Maomao holds herself back from deducing anything. Upon returning to the Jade Palace, she notices Gyokuyo is having a conversation with Jinshi outside of her chamber, which might alert other malicious ladies-in-waiting and maids about her pregnancy. Upon noticing her, Gyokuyo calls Maomao and reveals that Jinshi has some business with her. However, for some reason, Jinshi wants to talk with her in private without having any other person listening. Then, they head to Jinshi's office, where he asks for her advice on a writing school the emperor is wanting to build to teach the maidservants. Maomao then explains to him how they should avoid teaching the maids in front of the lady-in-waiting, and consorts as they are prideful people who might dislike seeing those maids receiving education. After this, she points out an unmaintained place that can be renovated as a vocational learning area, and also praises Jinshi for thinking about this project. However, this shocks both Jinshi and Gaoshun, as they aren't used to seeing Maomao smile. Before she leaves, Jinshi also tasks her in investigating some mushrooms, which has resulted in some consorts and lady-in-waitings getting poisoned. Maomao agrees to his request and explores the forest area. Suddenly, however, she smells a very pungent fragrance and finds there are a lot of mushrooms growing because of no maintenance. After picking a ton of them, Maomao returns all dirty, which worries Yinghua, who cleans her up. Then she meets Gyokuyo and notices that she and Hongniang are wearing a black strap on their wrist, which means the death of a person who holds noble status. Hongniang then takes Maomao on a walk and reveals that one of the top mid-level consort, Lady Jin, has passed away because of food poison. She reveals that she is feeling relieved that she is dead because Lady Jin was a woman with a very peculiar personality. She used to get jealous of anyone and plot against them, and not only this, but she also took very bad behavior on maidservants. As such, Hongniang was worried that she might harm Gyokuyo in some way. At that moment, both of them arrive at Lady Jin's funeral, where Maomao notices some burns on the hand of a maidservant. Nevertheless, just as Maomao begins feeling a little sad for not being able to see Lady Jin's face, a madwoman arrives there and removes the white cloth from her face, showing that she also has large burns and swellings on her face. Hongniang then explains that the madwoman is actually a low-ranking consort named Su, whom the emperor visited quite a few times. However, Lady Jin didn't like it, and one day, Su noticed that her hair was falling off and her face was swelling, causing her to lose her status and leading her to think that Lady Jin did this to her. But a year after that, Lady Jin also suffered through the same disease, and her condition worsened than Su. This makes Maomao realize that Jinshi was telling her to search for that particular mushroom. Then she once again heads to the forest and eventually finds a red-colored mushroom, which she later shows to Jinshi and Gaoshun with extreme caution. She reveals that it is a highly poisonous mushroom that can kill anyone, and only touching it causes skin burn, swelling, and hair fall. While deducing what would have happened to those ladies, Maomao suddenly connects the dots and finds something. She then has Gaoshun and 2 other eunuchs accompany her to the forest, where the smell is strongest. Then she has them dig the surface, and surprisingly, they find a corpse buried beneath it. Maomao then explains that it is the real Lady Jin who died a year ago from the illness, or she could also have been killed by her subordinate Tao, who had been treated hideously by her. And because Tao looked so similar to her, the other maidservants forced her to act like Lady Jin, covered in bandages, to avoid facing punishment. However, she doesn't conclude the end and leaves it to the higher official. Suddenly, Jinshi and Gaoshun find out that the mushrooms she had plucked are all grown on top of the corpse of Lady Jin. Obviously, it weirds them out, and they confiscate the whole basket. Leaving Maomao in dismay, suddenly she begins thinking how a mushroom forms on top of a corpse.